There is this attitude amongst human beings that we don't want to be interfered by anyone. We just want to do what we want to do, always have our excuse or reasons for what we're doing, and we don't like and we are upset when people interfere in what we consider our affairs or our private lives or our business. Well, let me tell you one thing. This attitude that people have is a common attitude. We even consider it a natural attitude. It's quite stupid. It's a counterproductive, reprobate, negative attitude that we have. With we, I mean collectively, the human species. Why? Because as a species, we should look after one another. That's how it should be. And that means we have to pay attention to what's going on around us, to our fellow human beings. Now, if someone is living in some village in China that you don't even know about, let's say there's a village in China that you don't even know that exists, you cannot pay attention to those people because first, you're far away from them and you don't even know that your village, nor those people exist. So in that case, it's different. But if someone is living in your environment, close to you, you should pay attention to them and to others around you. Not out of obsession, not because you want to just spread rumors about them, no, but you have to be alert about the people around you. That's natural and that's a fact. In the Netherlands, it's not only the Netherlands, in the Netherlands it often happens that people die either from accidents or from diseases in their own homes, and for weeks, sometimes even years, the neighbors aren't even aware that they've been missing. It's only when there's a big stench that afflicts people that is sent someone to look and then they figure out, oh, this elder lady died 2 years ago. Such things happen often. Often people ignore such messages because they don't want to be confronted with it. Some people think, how is this possible? This is not someone that lives kilometers away. This is not someone that lives in some flat in a big city center. This is your neighbor. How didn't you notice that this individual wasn't around? Now look, there are cases where people go missing and the public's in on it, but also cases where people just don't notice obvious things around them. Look, before you had CCTV, before you had camera technology, human beings used to have elderly people, sometimes even children, spying around to check what's going on. And this was common back then, to have children roaming around, playing around, and the children would inform their parents and their families what was going on. Or you would have elderly people, especially elderly ladies, sitting in their windows, checking around the neighborhood. People knew back then that we have to keep each other in check. Now, this mind your own business attitude also existed in such communities. And of course, were things that were covered up. But again, that mind your own business attitude is ridiculous. It's harmful. Just think about it. What if you see a child walking around and the child looks sad and you see there are blue spots on the child's skin? Now that is proof that the child's being abused. What are you going to do? Are you going to let it pass, say, oh, it's none of our business, stay out of it? Okay, so if you stay out of it, what happens? The child abuse will continue. And what if 20 years later you hear that some husband killed his wife, or some husband killed his wife and his family committed suicide, or some mass shooter entered into a mall and shot everyone down and killed many people, or some suicide bomber joined some terrorist cult and he exploded himself, killed many people. Now people are upset, thinking, oh, what's going on with our world? But hold on a minute, this same perpetrator used to be a little boy that couldn't defend himself, that couldn't help himself, and he needed the community to intervene. But what happened? People say, hey, it's none of our business, we won't be bothered. And that same community that did not intervene and interfere on behalf of the child, that same community, when the same child was in his teenage years, they expect him to show respect, to have manners. So this victim realized that the community doesn't care about him, the community only wants to exploit him. Now, I don't approve of the young man turn to the dark side, but hey, even if he did not turn to the dark side, he would have a defective grown man walking around. And he couldn't I couldn't help myself from being defective. The community made him defective. Now, if a defective individual ends up joining the dark side, I don't approve of that, but it's also on the community that happened, because the community should not defect its own members. What often happens in the world is people see signs something is off, they keep their mouth shut because they don't want to be involved, and when things go wrong, they're the first ones to complain. And here's where the busybodies have an advantage. Now, I don't approve just involve yourself in every situation. I don't approve of that. Neither is it a wise thing to do, because you never know what you get involved in, especially if it's a conflict. I don't approve of that. What I'm doing is I'm showing you that the busybodies who are nosy, or say the nosy people, they have one advantage. Nosy people, they at least recognize that you need to pay attention to your environment. Nosy people are people that recognize the need to be alert. Now, they may not use it. They may not use this knowledge the proper way, but at least they are aware of it. Because I'm telling you, most people out there, they're in a cycle. There's some type of collective trance. They wake up, brush their teeth, shower, put on their clothes, go to work. When they come back home, they're tired. They have a little bit of sex with their sex partner, if they have any, or they watch TV. Then they go back to sleep. They repeat this over and over again. Only on Saturdays are they free, and some even have to work on Saturdays, and throughout the year they only have, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks for themselves. Even if they're not working, but they're on welfare, they're often stuck in playing video games or going to pubs, all of that. So what I'm saying is that a lot of people, but most people are unconscious. They operate on an unconscious level. So they're like NPCs. NPCs are those characters in video games that are not steered by any human player. Those are just codified characters, just act. You see them in video games. Well, a lot of people are operating just like that. They're like NPCs. They don't regard anything around them. If something is not intrusive to their safety, or if something is not overwhelmingly penetrative to their senses, they don't pay attention. For example, someone can be screaming loud on the street. Only then will they pay attention to what's going on around here. But apart from someone screaming loud on the street, or some big bang that they hear, or some gunshots, they don't even look around. They know that there are other houses, they know there are other people around, but they only focus on going to their house. They're so-called minding their own business. That attitude, as I mentioned before, is ridiculous. It can be, for example, that there is this car that's there. Every Monday till Wednesday there's this car over there. Now, maybe the car is there because the individual in the car is a doctor, comes and takes care of a patient. Now, if that's the explanation, there's nothing wrong. But if there's a car around there, then a play yard with their children, and it's an old gentleman in the car, what is the old gentleman doing there, staying in his car for hours with the children playing around? The community should realize what's going on there, and they should one day when the car arrives, should document it with camera, and they should knock on the door of the car and ask the individual, "Sir, why are you always around here in this play yard? What's going on?" They should hold each other accountable. But what do people say? Hey, mind your business. So sometimes some of the children will say, "Mom, Dad, this is old man in this car all the time." And the parents, who often don't want to be bothered by anything because they're so tired of going to work, are saying, don't worry about or mind your own business, don't be rude. So a lot of times people brush off warning signals. The nosy individual will think, hold on a minute, why is this car over here? Over and over again. Who's this individual in the car? Let me take pictures of this individual. Let me write down the license plate. Let me share this with a friend of mine. The nosy individual will share the information they've noticed, and because of that, people get aware. But now the nosy individual may not know what to do, but maybe he shares it with someone, and someone thinks, hold on a minute, what you shared here with me is quite disturbing. You need to go to the police because this doesn't add up. Or you get what I'm saying here? So the nosy individual, even though they may not always act in what we consider a proper way, they are realistic, that they pay attention to stuff. And here's one thing, nosy people, Not all of them, but in general, they tend to avoid bad situations. Why? Because instinctively, they are alert and aware to pick up information around them. And that's a good thing. And that's a quality many people miss, because they've been trained by their parents and by society to mind their own business and not bother anyone else, and to keep to themselves. Keeping to yourself is a ridiculous attitude. It's self-destructive, it's harmful, and it doesn't bring forth any good. What good does it bring to a community when someone only involves himself or herself and never shows any interest in any other individual? What good does an individual contribute to that community? Absolutely nothing. But yet that's the attitude we expect from other people. They're only allowed to talk, only allowed to say something or do something when we permit them. This obsession with control that fallen mankind has, that's the reason fallen mankind remains doomed in many cases. Am I saying that you have to praise nosy behavior? Just unconditionally, no. But when people are nosy, in the sense that they are instinctively alert and they inform others when they notice something, we should endorse that. We should endorse and normalize people sharing information that they consider suspicious. We should normalize that and endorse it. We should endorse people that ask the proper questions. We should endorse people that look beyond a situation. We should endorse people that disregard societal norms and manners when you realize something is off. As long as mankind remains with this obsession with control, in which you want to control other people, you will keep having this mind your own business bullshit. And the longer you have this mind your own business bullshit, the longer harm will continue. So you mean to tell me that people expect you to make everyone else at ease? Have manners, be respectful, keep it to yourself, don't bother anyone else. But when it's you that they need to look after, they neglect you. So the community has expectations concerning you, but you're not allowed to expect anything in return, because then they tell you the world doesn't revolve around you, or stop being a narcissist. And this is also the advantage the narcissist or the sociopath or psychopath has. The reprobate, I'm not talking about nosy people. If though reprobates can be nosy, but reprobates in general, they have one advantage. They don't just take expectations just because the group expects it. And that's what I think most people do. So, unlearn this keeping to yourself and mind your business attitude. Be realistic. Agree with Christ.